Hello everyone, my name is Seth, and today I'm going to give you my review of Smile 2. Merry Christmas, here's another horror movie review for you. But, all jokes aside, Smile 2 was a movie I was very much so looking forward to. I was excited to see it, didn't get around to seeing it, but I was incredibly excited even when they first announced that Naomi Scott was going to be starring in it. And I finally got around to it, and let me tell you, I'm so glad that I did. But before we go any farther, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. We're getting closer and closer to 300 subscribers, so if you're new here, please consider subscribing. And if you're not new here, please share this video with any friends or family. It'd really help the channel grow, and it'd absolutely make my day. So first off, I want to go ahead and say, I think this film was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. I don't necessarily think that the trailers were all that good. I really like the trailers for the first Smile film, but the ones for this one, I just didn't really think were that good. I didn't really think they looked that creepy to me. So because of that, I think this film was a massive surprise to me. I really, really enjoyed this film, and honestly, I think if you are a horror film fan, this is kind of a must watch. That's how good I think this is. Right off the bat, I want to go ahead and say that this film made me feel something, and that's exactly what you want from a film. It made me feel a ton of different emotions all throughout the course of this film. And in the third act, I had this giant pit in my stomach basically the whole time. I didn't expect to feel this many emotions when I was watching this film. It's creepy, it's confusing in the best way possible, it's brutal. You feel sorry for these characters, you feel heartbreak, you feel embarrassment, like it's crazy. It's an emotional roller coaster in the best way possible. And if you're not aware, this film kind of has some of the viral supernatural elements, something kind of like maybe a Candyman or The Empty Man, which I did review a little bit earlier this year. Maybe something like The Ring, something kind of like that. And if you've seen the first Smile, you know exactly really what you're getting into. But I will say this is anything but your standard run-of-the-mill horror film. They do such a great job of setting up our main character Skye and her background. They tell us a little bit about her, especially at the beginning of the film, but it's what they show us that is most important. And honestly, they trust the audience to understand what they're trying to get across to you. So the old saying of show, don't tell, they absolutely do that here, and they do it very, very well. They have a couple of sections here and there throughout the film where they have to kind of sit down and explain a little something to you, but it doesn't mess with the momentum of the film. It doesn't grind the film to a halt. It just works, and those moments don't last too long. It doesn't mess with the pacing of the film at all, and speaking of that, I think the pacing of this film all throughout it was very, very good. The story and the character development kept moving, but it never, ever felt rushed. There's a few flashbacks in this film, and even the flashbacks don't take you out of the film. The majority of these flashbacks really help just add to the story and add to the characters. There's only maybe one I would say that they didn't necessarily need in there, but even then, it was still used as kind of a transition point in the story. I think really my only complaint with the pacing of this film is that maybe it's ever so slightly, just a tiny bit too long. I would say maybe there's 5 minutes, maybe not even that, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, but maybe about 5 minutes that you could cut out of the film. But overall, that's not really that big of a deal because everything that's on screen is good. Also, throughout this film, they do a really good job of kind of making you question what you're seeing. They kind of give you that same paranoia feeling that our main character is feeling. And I think one of the biggest compliments I can give this film is that you can tell that the director, Parker Finn, really cares about this film. The whole film has this attention to detail in it. And you can tell Parker Finn is very passionate about this story and about this film. Every shot is intentional. I want to see what else he can do as a director, but honestly, I do kind of want to see one more Smile film from him. But you could just tell he has such a vision for this film, and I love how creative he gets. The cinematography all throughout this film is fantastic. They could have just stayed relatively basic and bland, just, here's some jump scares, here's some creepy imagery, just basic whatever kind of filmmaking, but they went above and beyond. There's a lot of classic horror cinematography techniques that you'll find all throughout this film, but they work. He's not just doing that to throw it in there, be like, hey, see, look, I watch horror movies too. All of this direction has a purpose. All of the camera movement has a purpose. They help communicate the right feeling to the audience. And sometimes they even throw in an upside down shot, and that's just to help make you feel really unsettled. I love the dolly zooms that they use throughout this film. That just works really well. And they just get so creative with the camera work, and it almost demands your attention with all of the energy that the cinematography gives the film. Just the plain smiling stuff could definitely lose its creep factor the more you see it throughout the film, but the way that they film it, the cinematography around it, really makes it stay fresh. It really helps the scares to land. And I really like, as this film goes on, with the filmmaking, we kind of get to experience the decline of her mental state as well. They do such a great job of putting us in her shoes and giving us her perspective, and that just makes it even more creepy. But honestly, this film is very disturbing. It's very creepy, and it's a lot more bloody than I expected it to be. It's very violent. It's very brutal. But I'll say that none of it was unnecessary. Everything you see in this film had a purpose. And I'm not going to beat around the bush at all. Naomi Scott deserves an Oscar for this performance. Honestly, she gives the best performance I've seen all year. She was absolutely incredible in this film. She won't get any recognition from the Academy because, unfortunately, the Academy just kind of pretends that the horror genre doesn't exist. But honestly, at a minimum, Naomi Scott deserves an Oscar nomination for her performance here. She shows an incredibly huge range in this film. She has some subtle and more low-key moments, and she does an awesome job with that. But when she has to go really big, she has to really show the paranoia, they're screaming. She does awesome with that as well. But she never goes over the top. It never feels excessive. Even at her most extreme reactions, it all seems so natural. Naomi Scott plays this pop star named Sky who has had this troubled past. She's made some bad decisions, and Naomi Scott's performance here really connected with me. I love when she gives us these little moments with Sky where she kind of lets down her kind of pop star persona, and we get kind of a little glimpse into what Sky really is like. That's really subtle, and I love how Naomi Scott's performance allowed for that subtlety of kind of letting those walls down a little bit. And her performance makes me feel so sorry for Sky. It makes me root for her. Everyone else in this film did a really good job too, especially when they had to be creepy, but honestly, this is just the Naomi Scott show. I'll also say that I don't really think that there was a ton of CGI in this, but I would say most of the CGI that is here looked good. There were only a few spots that kind of took me out a little bit. Sometimes when there was like some blood splatter that was obviously CGI, that kind of distracted me a little bit, but for the most part, everything CGI-wise looked good, and everything that they did practically looked really, really good. Those practical effects really shined in this film. Overall, I was really, really surprised by this film. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't really think the trailers looked that good, and I just kind of felt that this would be, your standard, average, whatever horror film. But this film made me feel a lot of emotions. Naomi Scott gave an Oscar-worthy performance, and Parker Finn did an incredible job directing this. He got creative with the cinematography, he has a ton of attention to detail, and he just went above and beyond for this film. He had such a strong vision for this film, and you can absolutely tell in the final product how much he cares for this. This was genuinely a creepy and brutal and heartbreaking and disturbing film. I haven't had a horror film affect me like this in quite some time, honestly. And right now, I would say it's probably in my top 5 for 2024. So, with that being said, I'm gonna give Smile 2 a 4.5 out of 5. But that's it. That's my review of Smile 2. Have you seen this film? Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. Did you love it as much as I did? Let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. You can follow me on social media pretty much anywhere at CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.